Kakalosh Boker Or, Masechet Sanhedrin Daf Yomi Daf Tzadikei Amud Aleph 95a1. We were speaking about Yirmiyahu Navi, and we just said, what does it mean when it says in the pasuk Allah Adiyeh Misubacho, my Aniya Anatot? Because remember, we said that this is the haftarah of Shemot, Parashat Shemot for Sfaradim, and this is also the first haftarah of the 3 weeks. Okay, Divrei Yirmiyahu ben Chilkiyahu, Mina Anatot. So it says, what is Aniya Anatot? Atid Yirmiyahu ben Chilkiyahu mitnabe ala me'anatot. So Yirmiyahu ben Chilkiyahu is going to come, and he's going to be mitnabe from Anatot. Okay, so he was going to be mitnabe, he was going to have the nevuah on the destruction of Yerushalayim in the hands of Nebuchadnezzar, and that's actually what's going to happen. Now Yirmiyahu was from another Dichtiv Divrei Yirmiyahu Minei Kodim Hashabanato Beretz Binyamin. Right here, if you want to pass this. Yeah. So says the Gemara, Midami. Can you compare both cases? He says Hatam Ari Behacha Laish, which means there Nebuchadnezzar was called an Aryeh. Ala Aryeh Misubacho. An Aryeh is a lion, right? Here he's called a Laish, not a lion. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan says Rabbi Yochanan, you're right. The lion has 6 names. Shisha Shemot Yesh La'ari. The Ari has 6 names. Eluhen Ari, Kefir, Lavi, Laish, Shachal, Shachatz. Now, again, all these different psukim, they come from different, different places. Okay. Rashi comes and he explains that why are they called all these different names, right? They say that Ari is when it's Gadol. Shachal is when it's Benoni, when it's like a middle size. The Kfir is when it's a Katan. Yeah. Now again, why do you still need all the other ones? That's another question. But basically, that means it's different sizes. That's when you're going to call, a lion. Even in English, you call the lion and then you call it, I think it's a cub. No?
Yeah, Lavi also is a female, no?
It could be also. The Lavi is a female. Right? But I think of which one? Livia. Right. But again, there's the cub, then there's the meaning different stages, you have different names. So says the Gemara, if so, if you're going to tell me that it's written in the pasuk Tzali Kolech Bat Galim, and we're not talking about where Sancheriv actually passed by, so Batzr Luhu, so then you don't have Eser Masaot. Remember that we said that he traveled 10. Let's go back to the Gemara there. Amar Ravuna Eser Masaot Nasaot Rasha Beoto Yom. There was 10 Masaot that Sancheriv, right, that he went and he traveled on that day in order to come to Yerushalayim, right, to destroy Yerushalayim. Shneimar, if you remember, that's what we said at the end of the daf of yesterday. Shneimar, Baal Ayit, Rabbi Miron, all these different things, right? And then it said, Dakshivi Laishan Yanatot. So therefore, if you're going to tell me now that it's not one of these places and that he's compared like a lion, so for you don't have 10. Beforehand, we asked, you have 12. And then we answered, no. That's a Navi coming to Knesset Yisrael. So therefore, he says it's only going to be 9. So they answered, Avru Mabera is 2 different ones. Avru and Mabera, it's 2 different cities that he passed by in order to go to Yerushalayim. Okay? Fine. Nekuda. Now we're going to Pesach. Bezrat Hashem, we're within the 30 days of Pesach. So we know that the last day of Pesach, right, is the 8th day of Pesach. That's the day that we always call the day of the Mashiach, whether it's going to be because that we know of the Mimona in the nighttime, that we have the Emunah that right after on Isru Chag will be built the Bet HaMikdash, because it cannot be built on Pesach, because we already learned down. So it's going to be, afterwards, and then you have 7 days of the Chanukata Bayit, and that's why the rest of the month of Nisan that you don't have Tachronim. So on the last day of Pesach, we have a famous haftarah. We translate it in Spanish, right? Which is Odayom. Odayom ben Ovashan. That's Sancheriv coming that he wanted to destroy Yerushalayim. So he comes and he brings up his entire army. And when he looks at Yerushalayim, he comes and he says, this little tiny thing, in 2 seconds, we destroy the entire thing. And all of a sudden that night, what happens is, boom, his entire camp is killed out. Everybody is destroyed. So he thought that he was, and all of a sudden he gets completely destroyed. So says the Gemara, my Odayom benov la'amod. Yeah, this is Haftara, Odayom. So Amar Ravuna says, Oto Ayom nishtayer me'avona shel Nov. Until that day, there was still the Avon of Israel that they were killed, the Kohanim of Nov. You remember who killed Shaul? Shaul HaMelech. Why? Who was one that gave him that advice? We just learned it. Chazak Baruch. Yeah, he's on fire. Doeg Adomi. We said that Doeg, right? He was one of the Hedyotot that did not get Chelek Ba. We just started in this perek. Right now, why? Because Doeg Adomi came, even though he was a Gadol B'Torah, he was one of the Gadolei Ador. He went to Shaul and he purposely said Lashon Hara about David HaMelech. And then he went and he said, listen, Nov, they're protecting him. Now, Nov didn't even know that David HaMelech was a fugitive and he was running away from Shaul. Right? He didn't even know. So what happened was he went and he killed out the entire city of the Kohanim. Imagine, the entire city of Kohanim wiped out. And that's, by the way, that was the downfall of Shaul. Shaul's downfall was because of Nov, right here. So when it says Od Hayom ben Nov la'amod, still the sin of Nov was still there. Now, remember, we're talking about much later. Because after Shaul, you had David, you had Shlomo. Shlomo was the one that built the Bet HaMikdash, and now you're going to come and you're going to have right the entire 400 and right. So you imagine 410 years later, and still this is still the sin of Nov was still there. There was still remnants of that sin of killing out the city of Nov. So he comes and he says, Amri le kaldai, iazal ta'inna. So the instagnunim, right, is the stargazers of Sancheriv, they come and they tell me, if you go now, right, and you're going to do a siege on Jerusalem, yacholtala, you could destroy it. And if not, lo yacholtala. Meaning, if you're not going to come immediately, right now, to do a siege on Jerusalem, you won't be able to overcome it. Orcha de ba'ala seguya basara yome. He was able normally to go, it would take 10 days to get there. Saga bechad yoma. Kfitzat derech, he was able to get there in 1 day. So what's the biggest sign? Meaning, if you want to come and you want to get a sign, right? He wants to come and he wants to destroy the Bet HaMikdash. Takes him 10 days to get there. It took him 1 day. He was already there. He's got Sita Deshmaya. He says, Kimatu Yerushalem. When he gets to Yerushalayim, Shadi le bistarke. He comes and he puts matzaot, like different carpets. Adesalik viyativ milave shura, until he was able to see, right, the gova of Chomat Ha'ir. Adechaziyua lechula Yerushalayim. So he put up carpets until he was able to go up, right, and he was able to see the entire Jerusalem. Yeah, because there was a wall, so he was on the outside of the walls. He comes, he puts carpets. He's able to see the entire Jerusalem in front of him. Ki chazia izatur beineh. When he comes, it was little in his eyes. And the truth is, that's what we say in, remember, the Spanish actually, that we say, and if you remember, I gave it to you in English as well, is actually a Targum of Yonatan ben Oziel, meaning it's the English of the Targum. If you take the Targum Yonatan ben Oziel on the Pasuk, you'll see, so it says over there, he saw it con desgracia, right? He comes and he sees it with disgrace. And he says, "Es esta la famosa tierra de Jerusalem. This is the famous city of Jerusalem, right? This is the famous city that I moved all my like everything, all my army and this and that I put everyone in war for this little tiny city." That's what he says. Izatur bene. It was the disgrace to him. This is Jerusalem. Amar halodai karta de Jerusalem. This is the city of Jerusalem. Dalar gashit kol that I went. And I got all my machanot of sefinot and everything. He says, "Va'ala kavashit kol medinata," and because of that, I went and I conquered all the cities, all the countries. He says it's so small and insignificant, right? From all the krachim of the right. I want afterwards you take the thing and you read the English, right, of the haftarah. It's mamash incredible. This is Sancheriv. Yeah, he comes and he says, "It's kofyadi. There's nothing what I could do." Allah vekam umani beresheh. He gets up and he was nodding with his head. Movilu maiti biyadeh. He comes and he's going al turbet mekdesha devetzion, and he comes and he starts waving towards the Haram Mikdash, the Bet HaMikdash of Tzion. Valazarta de Yerushalayim, and on the Azara of Yerushalayim, Amri, right? They said, Zartzvo nishadeh beyada aina. Should we come and destroy it now? Amaleu, he says, Tamitu. You guys are very, very weak. You guys are tired. Yeah, so what? Lemachar, aitili kol chad vechad minaychu. Each one of them will come, vegol muharag mineh, and will take a piece of this wall, right, and we'll destroy it. Meaning tomorrow we're going to come, destroy the entire city. Tomorrow. So there in the Perek it says each one of you will come and take a brick from the stones of the walls of the Jerusalem. Miyad, immediately, vayhi balayla hu. It was on that night. Vayetze malach Hashem, kima malach Hashem, vayach b'machaneh Ashur, and it hit in machaneh Ashur, 185,000 people. וישכימו בבוקר, והנה כולם פגרים מתים. They woke up in the morning, and the majority of the people there, they're all dead. They're all corpse. Like, they're all corpse, right? So this is the famous, this is how basically he went, and the entire, imagine his entire camp was basically wiped out overnight. Without a war. They were already wiped out. Yeah? Amra, right? Amar of Papa says, Hainu Damninchi, that's what people say. But dina, batel dina. If you leave over the judgment, it's going to be batel. Meaning sometimes people have an argument. Yeah? What do? Wait until the next day. Why? Because many times when you wait until the next day, it completely becomes an alt. Why? Because they get calmed down a little bit. You know, each side, they get a little bit. So therefore, so he says that's a dictum that comes from here. Because here, the one, if he would have went immediately, maybe. But he said tomorrow. The second was tomorrow. That's it. Hashem came and boom, wiped out the entire camp. Okay? Fine. Now that we're mentioning the concept of Nov, the Gemara is going to explain, right, how was David punished, right? Because he also caused Kilu the death of Nov, right? The city of Nov. So it says, Vishbi benov, asher bilidei arafa, umishkal keno shelosh meot mishkal nechoshet, vehu chagur chadasha. Yeah, vayom elakot David. What does that mean exactly? Here, this person, his name is Yishbi, right? He was from Toshave Nov. And he says here, Asher bilidei harafa, right? Here it says that this comes from Orpa Movia, right? Mitzetse harafa, umishkal keno. So he says, this is a shekel matechet asui ken kova. It's like like the how do you call the helmet? Yeah.
What was this there? Not Kohen.
No, he ran away to Nov. He ran away to Nov Ira Kohanim, and he asked the Kohen Gadol, right? He asked the Kohen Gadol there for the sword that he killed. I was going to say it. Yes, he asked the Kohen Gadol. We learned it in Navi recently, right? I think it was a year ago when we were learning Navi. We were learning all this. So he says he asked for the. I think his name was Achimai. He asked him for the sword that he killed Goliath. Because in the olden days, it was considered like a mazal that when he killed Goliath, he took the sword, right? And he didn't take a sword to kill Goliath; he killed him with the stones, right? But what happened is that so he took that sword in order to go out to war afterwards. Because he ran away with nothing. He didn't have anything. So he says that like this. Yes, let's continue. So he says, "V'hu chagur chadasha, v'yom elakot David, mai vayish benov, amar Rabbi Rav, ish sheba liskenov." We're talking about a person that came, right, because of Nov. So amar lo Kadosh Baruch Hu David, says Kadosh Baruch Hu David, "Amata yavon zeh tamum biyadecha." Until when are you going to have the sin in your hands, right? So he says, "Al yadecha nerga," because of you, right? The city of Nov was destroyed. Al yadecha nitara, because of you, doegadami, he was destroyed also. He was killed. He was gonna be killed without the Olam Haba. And because of you was killed Shaul and his 3 children. What do you want? Do you want that your children will be destroyed? Or do you want that you're going to be given over to your enemies? Amar lefanav, he said, Ribono shel olam, mutav imaser biyad oyev velo yachli zeri. He says he prefers to be given over to the enemies, but that his children will still be able to live. Meaning he doesn't want that there will not be a remembrance of his children. Let his children, but he's going to be given over to his enemies. So Yom Echad Nafak Lishkor Bazai. So one day David HaMelech goes out and he's going to trap. He's going to go hunt. Ata Satan Idem Betavia. So the Satan came and it appeared like a tzvi, like a deer. Patak Begira Velomatia. So he comes, he shoots an arrow. It didn't get there. So now the deer goes a little bit further. Mashche, he kept on going until he got to the land of the Pelishtim. Right? David HaMelech. Yishbi Benov. So when this Yishbi Benov sees him, Amar, he says, Hainu Haide Katle le Goliath Achi. Right? He says, this guy was the one that killed Goliath, my brother. Kafte Kamte. He grabbed him and he tied him up. And he threw him under a bad of zetim. He threw him under the olive press. That he's going to be killed in the olive press. Itabele Nisa, there was a miracle that happened. Machale Ara Mitata, that the bottom became like a hole, and therefore what happened was he had a guma. So therefore, even though the olive press went down and it was going to crush him, the ground underneath went down. So therefore, when the olive press went down, there was a hole for him, and therefore he wasn't crushed. And that's what it means in the pasuk. Tarchiv tzadi, right? Tachtai, that the place where I was standing, right? You're going to make it rachav, right? This is the where I'm standing. Velo ma'adu kal sulai, and I wasn't killed. Okay, so Awu Yoma Apanya the man Shabbat. That day was Erev Shabbat. It was Samuch l'Chashecha. Avishai ben Tzuria v'kara Chayif Reshe. So Avishai ben Tzuria is washing his head for Lichvot Shabbat. Be'arba garbe maya with 4 seam of water. Chazinu kitmet daman. Now all of a sudden he sees in the water ktamim of dam. Meaning he starts seeing blood in the water, and he's thinking, I don't understand what's going on. Ika de'amni, or some people say Ata Yonah itrif kameh. All of a sudden a Yonah came and was and like hid himself in front of him. Right? Biknafea. He says here he was he was like knocking, right? Meaning that he was mitztaeret, right? He was suffering, this Yonah that comes. Yeah, exactly. With the wings. Samar Knesset Yisrael leYonah mitzila. He says Knesset Yisrael is compared to the Yonah. Shneimar Kamfei Yonah nechpeh b'kesef. Shema mina David Malkad Yisrael b'tzar Hashay. He says for sure David HaMelech is in tzar. So Ata lebetei, he comes to the house of David. V'lo shkachei, he doesn't find David HaMelech. So Avishai comes and he says, Tznan, en rochvin al suso, ve'en yoshvim al kiso, ve'en mishtamshi b'shavito, right? Pabishat sakana mai. He comes and he says, 1 second. I didn't come with a horse. You're not allowed to use the king's horse. You're not allowed to use the king's sharvit, which is, like the, you're not allowed to, so, but it's now shata sakana. What am I going to do? So what did he do? He ran to the Bet Midrash and he asked, Amrule, they told him, shata sakana, you're allowed to. So what happened? Rach ve'leparde, he goes on the pered of David and he starts going. Kaftzele ara. It was kfitzat derech. Bahadi de kamaski. And right when he's getting there, chazel orpe imeh. He comes and he sees Orpa, the mother. Right? So Avishai comes and sees Orpa, the mother of Yishbi. Right? This is, remember, this is Avishai ben Tzuria. This is the nephew of David HaMelech, and this is the general of David HaMelech. Right? So Davat Nevala, the sister. Right? No, not Orpa. Avishai ben Tzuria. Tzuria was a sister, right? Of David HaMelech. So this is the nephew. Avishai was the nephew of David HaMelech. Sorry, this is Yoav ben Tzuria, right? This is Avishai ben Tzuria. This is a brother, right? Amen. So Kakadosh, we're continuing towards the bottom of Tzadikei Amud Aleph, towards the bottom where it says that David HaMelech was captured by the Pelishtim, and all of a sudden Avishai ben Tzuria, he sees either the blood in the water, right, or he sees the Yonah, the pigeon. He comes, he runs, and he uses the mule of David HaMelech, and he starts going. There was Kfitzat derech, and he comes and he sees Orpa, the mother, right, of Goliath, Davanavla, that she's coming and she's weaving. Ki chaziteh, when she sees him, paskata lepilcha, she took it, v'shadita, and she threw it at him. Savra lemikteleh, she wanted to kill him, but it didn't get to him. Right? Why? Because it was ki'ilu. Now, she did it ki'ilu shelo bechavana, but she really wanted to kill him. Amrale, she told him, Alam, aiti lepelech. She told him, youngster, bring me the weaving thing. Patke beresh mocha. He went and he threw it at her head and he killed her, the katla. So finally they came and they killed Orpa, the mother of Goliath. Finally they came and they killed him. Right? This is Avishai. Okay? He killed him. He killed her. So Kichazia, right? Yishpi benov, when he sees Yishpi benov Amar, hashtavu bitren, vekatruni. He says, 1 second. Now I have a problem now. Because now I have David and Avishai. Now they're going to kill me. So Patke le David le'ela, he threw David up, v'datz le romche, and he put the romach, right, the spear, on the floor. Why? Amari says, nepul alev, and he told, what's going to happen is he's going to fall in it, and he's going to die. So therefore, that's what's going to happen. So basically, he puts the spear down, and then what happens is that David HaMelech is going to fall down right onto the spear. Yeah? Amar Avishai Shem, who's this? No. This is the Yishbi Benov. Yeah, you have over here, Gimara. Yishbi Benov, right underneath the Chokli side. Yishbi Benov. Yeah. So he says, So he comes and he says like this. He says, "Patke leDavid le'ela." He throws David upwards and he puts the romach there. And so Avishai comes and he said a name. V'ukmi leDavid ben Shmai la'ara. And he kept David Melech in between Shamayim va'aretz. Right? So says the Gemara, "V'neim alayu." So why doesn't David Melech say the name then? Meaning, why does Avishai have to say a name of a Kadosh Baruch Hu to hold David Melech in midair? Why doesn't David Melech say the name? Answers the Gemara, En chavush motzi atzmo mivet ha'asurim. A person that's in jail cannot free himself. You always need somebody on the outside. You understand? So therefore, once they're going to be on the outside, that's how they're able to do it. Okay? So David Melech wasn't able to do it. So what happened? Amarle says Avishai, my ba'itacha. Right? What are you doing here? Amarle, so David Melech tells him, Hachi amarle kutsha b'richu. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told me. This is what I told him. Amarle, he told him, Afich tzlotich. Change the tefillah. Right? Bar berach kira lizabun ve'at lo titzter. Why? Because basically your grandson should sell sha'ava, but at least you're not going to suffer. He says, at least you're not going to suffer. So Amarle, he comes and he says, Yachiv, so sayeh ba'adan. Right? Help me to change the gezerah. He helped him in the tefillah. Yeah, he helped him in the tefillah that he was going to change the decree. So what happened? Amar Avishai Shem ve'achte. Avishai said a name and he put him down. Yeah, avakaradi patrayu. Right? So all of a sudden Yishvi was running after them. Right? So Kimatu Kube, when they got to Kubi, which is right between Eretz Yisrael and the Pelishtim, Amri, they said, Kumbe. Right? Now that's it. Why? Because now we're going to hit him. So Kimata, once they got there, Beitre, Amri, they went and they said, Beitre Gurian katlu ala ariyah. He says, what? Gurim could come and kill an ariyah? This guy was such a gibor that even both of us together will not be able to kill him. So Amri lay, so they went and they said, Zilish takach l'orpa imech bekivra. Go find Orpa, your mother, that she's in the kever. The second that they mentioned the name of his mother, he became weakened, the katle, and they killed him.
What?
Because the second that your person comes and he tells them that the mother was killed, he didn't know.
No, he said, go to the kever of your mom.
Because he just killed her. And he didn't know. So what happened? Hainu dichtiv, az nishveu anshe David lo lemor, lo tetzeh od itanu lamilchama velo tivken ned Yisrael. Wow. From then on, they went and they said that they didn't want the Ned Yisrael to be out. So therefore, from then on, they didn't let David HaMelech come out to war. Because until then, he used to go to war. But they just saw that David HaMelech was almost killed. So they went and they said, that's it. They said they weren't going to let him come out. Okay? Until here we're clear. So that was the story. So says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, right? It says over here, they weren't, and they learned in a Braita, Shlosha kafza lahem haaretz. There were three people that there was kfitzat derech. Eliezer Eved Avraham, Yaakov Avinu, and Avishai ben Tzuruyah. Avishai ben Tzuruyah was the story that we just mentioned. Eliezer Eved Avraham dichtiv, but it says in the pasuk, Vavo hayom el ha'ain, lememra dahu yom hanafak. It comes out that he went out that day. Yaakov Avinu, so it means mamash, kfitzat derech. Yaakov Avinu, Tzadikei Amud Bet 95b. Yaakov Avinu dichtiv, it says in the pasuk, Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheva ve'elech Harana. He got to the place. When he got to Haran, he says what? He says, how could I pass the place where my fathers prayed and I didn't pray? So he wanted to go back. The second that he wanted to go back, there was yeah, that's one explanation, because it was vayifka b'makom. So he had kfitzat derech. Tavar acher, another explanation. En pigya letfilah. There's no pigya unless it's going to be tfilah. Shneimar ve'atal titpalel be'adam hazeh. Right? So that means whenever it says pigya is tefillah. So that's what it is. But it says, right? So this is the concept of tefillah. But yalen sham kiva shemesh. So all of a sudden he comes, lies down there because he's already set the sun. Right? The sun set, sorry. But the tzali, after he prayed, he wanted to go back. Immediately went, became nighttime in order that he should sleep there, right? And therefore he slept there in that place. And that's what it means in the pasuk. It says what? The sun only came out for him. He says it's the entire world. He says no. The same shemesh that went down before Kodem Zmano came up before Zmano in order to cure him as well, because the this is by Penuel. Okay, exactly, right. That means it came up early in order to cure him. Okay, fine. So ask the Gemara, so then how do we know them the Kaleh Zared David, that the children of David were killed then? Right? So he says that they went and he killed out all the children of the king. So says the Gemara, Yoash. He says, yeah, but you saw Yoash. That means Yoash was the only one that was not killed. So Hatamnami Ishtayir Eviatar, you also had Eviatar. It was also Eviatar. Right? So he says, if it wasn't for him, there would have been nobody left. Everyone would have been killed out. Okay, so therefore you're right. There was still a leftover, but basically the majority of all Malchut Bet David were killed out because of this. Okay? Amar Rav Yudah Marav, says the name of Rav. Ba'alehem Sancheriv Rasha. So we're going back to the story of Sancheriv. Remember, we put a pause just because of David HaMelech and everything, and then we started bringing down all the different stories and Novira Kohanim and everything. So now we're going back. Okay? Amar Rav Yudah Marav. Ba'alehem Sancheriv, Kam Sancheriv Rasha. ב-45,000 איש בני מלכים. With 45,000 people that were bnei melachim, yoshvin gekron shel zahav, mimayin shiglonot, and they had shiglonot, malchut, and zonot. וב-80,000 gibonim levashe shel yom klipa, right? וב-60,000 achuzei cherev latzim lefanav, ve'ashar parashim, and all the other ones are parashim. How do you say parashim in English? Foot soldiers, they call them?
Cavalier.
Cavalier, they called? Okay. Yeah, those are the ones that ride the horses, right? The cavalry, or whatever it is. Yeah, okay. וכן באו על אברהם. And the same thing, they came on Abraham, the same amount will come against us in Gog Magog. Okay? It's a lot of numbers. Huh?
Yeah.
The same will come against us for Gog Magog as well. Look how many people they came against us. Okay? So, b'matnita Tana. Yeah? That means that during the war of Gog Magog, they're going to come to fight against Bnei Israel with this amount of number. B'acharei Tayamim. יבואו חילות ארץ המגוג ובראשם גוג מלכם על אדמת ישראל ומפלתם של הפולשים תבשר את גאולת ישראל הסופית. Yeah, in the future.
The future, it's already happening.
Well, we don't know. במצנית התנא, אורך מחנהו 400 פרסאות ורוחב צוואר סוסיו ל-40 פרסה, סך מחנהו 260 ריבו אלפים חסר אחד. You're going to have 2,600,000,000.
2 billion. Full China.
Yeah.
No.
China is only one, no?
1 billion.
1.6.
Full China over India. Go. China 4 or 5 atoms. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. So Abaye. So Abaye comes and he asks, חסר אחד ריבויה או חסר אחד אלפא, או חסר 100 או חסר אחד. When it says -1, what's -1? -1 means minus a 10,000, -1,000, -100, or -1. You're going to tell me what's going to say. He said, Teku, we don't have an answer. Yeah, he said, -1, we don't have an answer. Okay, fine. Tana, we learned. The Shonim Avru Beshechi. The beginning, the first ones, they went by in Shichya, which means that there was, they went in water. They swam by. Shneimar v'chalav yudu shavav. And Saim Avru B'kumah, then they came with Kumah Zekufa. Shneimar Tzavar Yagiu. Achronim Elu Afar Baragleim. They actually had the Afar, meaning that Lo Matzu Mayim Anan Lishtot. They had to bring water from somewhere, which means that there were so many people coming by, they dried up the river. It's for sure, there were so many people going by, they dried up the river. There were so many thousands and thousands of people just going by the same river, they just dried it up. So says the Gemara, says 1 second, it was only 185,000. 185,000, it wasn't such a big number. Amar Rabbi Avu says, Halalu Rasheg Yasote. The 185,000 were the Mefakedim, were the generals, right? So that, but really, Be'emet, it was much more, right? It was mamash, much more. Only the generals died that there were 185,000. Amar Ravashi says Ravashi, Dai Kanami Dichtiv, you could also actually deduce this, right? Because he comes and he says, right? Dichtiv, it says in the pasuk, B'mishmanav razon, b'shmenim they eat behu. We're talking about the Shmenim Evitbu. So Amar Ravina said that cannot be dichtiv. It's also deduced because it says in the Pasuk Yishlach Hashem Malach v'Yachel Kol Gvur Chai v'Nagiv Yisrael B'Machaneh v'Yavo B'Telokem Motzieh. Right? Me'av Sham Yipilu B'Chedesh Shema Mina. So you can learn from here that the number of 185,000 was only be'emet Rasheg Yasot. But beside that, you had tons. So imagine how many numbers you actually had over there. The may come. How did the Malach kill them? The Malach came in that night and killed them all out. How did he kill them? Eliezer Omer Bayad he come. He hit them with their hand. Shneimar Vayad Yisrael Teveglula. Hayad Shatida Leipara Min Sadchariv. This is a hand. Right? One backhand, boom. Killed all of them. Yeah? Rabbi Yoshua Omer Be'etzba. Not with a hand. One finger. One finger. That's all he had to do. Shneimar Vayimnu Chadabim Paro Etzba Elohimi. He is the Etzba Shatida Leiparo Min Sadchariv. Yeah? Exactly. What do you think your wife does? She does that, you just come running. Yeah? So he says,
I go, I run under the bed. I'm about to sit over here, under the bed.
yeah. So he says, Rabbi Lazar ben Osher Rabbi Yosef Galilei Omer. Lazar, the son of Rabbi Yosef Galilei says, Amalo HaKadosh Baruch Hu Gabriel, Magalcha Netusha, right? He says, is going to kill all Chil Ashur. Amar Lefanav says, right, Gabriel, Ribono Shel Olam. Netusha ve'omer, it's from Masechet Bereshit, Shneimar mipnei charavot nadadu. I'm here to kill them with this. So it comes out that it was apparently Gabriel that he was going to kill them with a magal. Magal is like a sickle, I think they say in English. Yeah, to cut the katzir. I think it's called a sickle. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai Omer, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, Oto perek, Zman bishul perot hayah. It was the time of that the fruits were ripening. Hello, Kadosh Baruch Hu Gabriel. So it says Kadosh Baruch Hu to Gabriel, Keshata yotzel v'asher pero. When you come in, hazakek lem shneimar midei ovro yekach etchem, keboker yavor bayom v'layla v'yarak ziva'ah havinu shemua. Which means that they're going to understand all the zvaot and all the puranut, all the terrible calamities that are going to befall upon them. So Rav Papa says, that's what it says. Agavur chacha, meaning when you're going on your way, lebal de babach ishtema. Go to your enemy and make him afraid. Right? Meaning, tenatzelet izdamnut, and go to threaten your enemy. That means even though it wasn't for that, when you're already going, make sure he's going to be afraid. I mean, you're going for a different reason. But if you're already going that way, make sure that they're afraid of you. Make sure you give them a little bit of that fear. You know, that's what you're supposed to do. V'yesh omrim, and some people say, b'chotman nashaf b'ayin. He just blew. He blew at them. Right, with his chotim, with his nose. Umetu when they died. Shneimar, gam nashaf b'ayin v'yavoshu. He clapped his hands, right? Umetu when they died. Shneimar says in a pasuk, right? V'gamani akeh kapi el kapi v'anechuti chamati. He was revealed to them their ears. The shamu shira mipnei achayot, and they heard the shira umetu. Yeah. So imagine, boom, and they were going to die. Right? Shneimar says in the pasuk, minumutecha nafotzu goyim. Okay, so how much was left over? Meaning, we just said how many hundreds of, imagine they had 2,600,000, right? And 185,000 were killed, were only the Shega Yasot, which means only the generals. So how many were left over? It says over here, Rav Amar, Asara. 10 were left over of the entire camp. Of the entire camp. No. Shneimar, Ushar etz yaro mispar yu, fenar yichtevem kama nar yachol lichtov, right? Asara. Right, the ot yod. Yeah, so mamash, 10 people. Huh?
He killed 185 generals out of the 2.5 million, 2.6 million. He killed
2.6 billion. Yeah.
Killed 185,000. They were generals.
But he also killed everyone else. Because when you're going to come, right, for example, right, right now, right, the Israelis came and they killed a whole bunch of, who are they writing down? Every single Hamas operative? No. They're writing down the generals. They're writing down the heads. You understand? So they come and they put you a picture. Kasul. Everybody
but 10.
Exactly. 10 who were left over. Out of the 10 billion. It's Pasuk. Yeah. So he comes here and he says over here, right? Ushmul Amar, Tisha, 9 were left over. Shneimar v'nishar bo olelot kenokev zayit, 2-3 gargarim berosh amir, 4-5 bisafea. So 4-5 is basically 4 and 5 is 9. So for there was only 9 left over. You're going to tell me like why exactly? Fine. I think it's just like the remnants just to testify. They will be able to see that, to say that I was there when this happened, and this is exactly what happened. Rabbi Yeshua ben Lewi Amar, 14. You put all of them together. Because the previous one there said Shnaim Shosha, and then it said Arba v'chamisha. So Arba v'chamisha is 9. Arba v'chamisha. Yeah, but what about the Shnaim Shosha? So if you add Shnaim and Shlosha, right, to the Arba v'chamisha, you have 14. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Chamisha, Sancheriv u'shne banav, Nebuchadnezzar v'Nebuzaradan. There were 5 in total. Yeah, you had Sancheriv, the 2 children. Can you close the door, please? Thank you. You had Sancheriv, the 2 children. Okay. And then you had Nebuchadnezzar and Nebuzaradan. Yeah. Nebuzaradan was the Rav Tabachim that he actually converted later on. Okay. Nebuzaradan Gemara. It's a Masoret. Yeah. It's a Masoret, right? That he was also part of Sancheriv's army. Nebuchadnezzar dichtiv vereve di reviyah demala lebada lahen ve'af lav v'chaziyeh. How did Nebuchadnezzar know what a malach was? Meaning, how did he know? He says because he was there, and therefore he was able to see Gabriel taking him out of the Kivshanaesh. Sancheriv u'shne banav dichtiv v'hi hu mishtachave ben Yisroch Elohav Adar Melech b'shatzad b'nav hiku b'cheref. Which means that he left Sancheriv Minkat Malachim Adar Melech b'shatzad b'nav. He was left over. So then, how did he die then? So Rabbi Yavu says, "Shalom, you wouldn't say it." תכתיב ביום ההוא יגלח השם בתר הסחירה בעברי נהר, right, במלך אשור, את הראש ושר הרגליים. So he said, וגם את הזקן תספה. He says, what's happening exactly? Right? אתה הקדוש ברוך הוא וידמלא כגברא סבא. הקדוש ברוך הוא came, and he looked like an איש זקן. אמר he tells them, כי עזר לגבי, right, מלכי מזרח ומערב, when the kings of מזרח ומערב, they're going to come, דהייתידנו לבניו וכתתדו, right, they're going to come and take them to war, right, to be killed. So what are you going to say? Elmaleh, Sancheriv told the Zaken, Ha'u gavra be'ahu pachtanam yativ. He says Sancheriv himself, right? He was also afraid. He's very afraid. Elmaleh, and he told him, Hechi navid. So what am I going to do? Elmaleh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, Zil, go, v'shaneh nafshach, right? And itchapes. So nobody will know who you are. What should I dress myself up? Elmaleh, he says, Zil aiti la mispera. Go bring me scissors. Right, and I'm going to take off your hair. So where am I going to bring it from? Go to this house and bring it. So he went and he found. So they look like people. So they were living in the house. And they were coming and they were grinding tmarim. He says, give me misparaim. Go grind. And then we'll give it to you. You grind the wheat. They gave him the misparaim until he came. All of a sudden it was nighttime. Elmaleh, he says, give me a fire. They brought a fire. When he was going to be making it bigger, it got into his zakan and it burnt him. What? Yeah, this is to Sancheriv, in the beard of Sancheriv. So he went and he was megaleach et rosho shel Sancheriv et zekano. So he went and they made him bald, right, on the beard and the hair. Amru, and they said, Hainu dichti v'gam et zakan tisfeh. It's going to burn even the zakan. Someone of Papa, Hainu damnin shegiritel le'onama shapile. Right, if you're going to come and it's good, it's going to be burnt. The nochri is going to be burnt. Aitlil nura bedikne, right, bring the fire to the beard, velo savat chucha mine, and it's still not going to, you're still going to be continuing to laughing at it. Obviously, we're going to continue the sipur, on Sunday. We'll bring it in.